What's going on, guys? Alex here, and welcome to the first episode of Ask CimoMedia, the show where you guys get to submit your questions so that I can help answer them. Be sure to follow me on social media so that you guys can have the chance to ask your question, and it may appear in a future video. Our first question comes from Bystander that reads, what are good budget cameras you would use for shooting content? What kind of stand do you use for shooting openings, and how much does it cost? This is something that people get caught up in time and time again, when the real answer here is that it doesn't really matter all that much. Now, yeah, arguably you don't want to be shooting your content on a potato, but so many smartphones nowadays are so powerful and have such great cameras that you can use that and be just fine. So you already have the ability to make content in your pocket. I have this. This is like, I think, a $10 little like selfie stick that actually has like a little tripod stand. So you could pick this up. I can easily just slide my phone in right here and look at that. If you want to start vlogging, here you go. Here's your vlogging camera. If you want to do some sort of product review, you can just tilt this down and look, you can just sit behind it. You can show the product off here and you have a camera that's great for doing review style videos. You don't really need the best of the best quality. Sure, it can help depending on what you're trying to go for and maybe depending on the context of the type of content you're trying to create. Obviously, you're going to want to, maybe upgrade as you start to grow your following much larger. But when I initially started out, I was using an iPhone 4, I think, when I shot my first videos on my first channel, and clearly that was enough because here I am later doing just fine. The point I want to drive home here is that it doesn't necessarily matter what the equipment is that you're using to produce your content. What matters is actually producing the content. So many people feel that they need to get this certain equipment, otherwise they can't make the content, and so it's this self-imposed restriction that's just stopping them from making content, and ultimately they're just gonna say, maybe it's just not worth it. Just start making the content and you can upgrade as time progresses. Now, if you're gonna use your phone, what I would actually recommend is to focus on upgrading your audio before your video. Smartphones already have incredible cameras, but the audio leaves a lot to be desired, and so by getting a nice microphone to kick things off, that's actually gonna take the quality of your videos up significantly, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how good the video looks if it sounds like garbage. So I would recommend getting just like a Blue Yeti microphone. Those run about $50 to $100. I used a Blue Yeti for the last 4 years on my main channel, and it did me just fine. As long as you know how to use it, I mean, you can do whatever you want with it, really. If you're gonna be outside or maybe gonna be moving around, it might be best to invest in something like a lavalier mic that you can attach to your collar, so that way it doesn't matter if you're doing a lot of moving, that you're always gonna have good quality audio. As someone who wants to start YouTube as a career focusing on anime and voice acting, I was thinking about your comment of being a total niche focus. What would you do if a bunch of people did the same content and that would drown you? What's great about YouTube is that it doesn't matter if you're at the top, the middle, or the bottom of the totem pole in a particular niche, because a single subscriber can watch content from anyone on that totem pole. So by extension, if you take that and apply it to 10,000 people or 100,000 people, the same logic still applies. So it doesn't matter if you're in a niche where a bunch of other people are already doing what you're doing. What matters is your particular voice. You don't have to be an expert in a particular field. It's about contributing to the conversation. It's about adding value. It's about delivering your unique take or your unique spin about something that people might be interested in. And that's okay. People are coming out of the woodwork on all sorts of different niches every single day. And so there shouldn't be any fear of doing so, because unless you put the content out there, you're not going to know what people like. But what matters is that you truly enjoy making that content, because as long as you do, you're going to be able to make that content in perpetuity. And when people see your love and see your passion for that content, they're going to be magnetized and attracted to you because they see how much you care dearly and passionately for that subject matter. And so that's where you're going to start to build a small community. It's going to start to snowball, and then the rest is history. As a small YouTuber starting out, how do you promote your content? Do you just maintain a consistent schedule and hope that eventually one of your videos becomes popular? For anyone watching this and is asking this question, I would highly recommend checking out the first episode of the YouTube Success Podcast, where I dive into this question really in depth with Ryan O'Rourke. There's really not enough time to cover it in this video, but that would be a great resource for you. What I can say is that don't focus so much about trying to have a video become viral. That's going to happen, and you're really not going to have much control over it. What you should focus on is your commitment and your persistence and your tenacity in being able to consistently upload content time and time again. What happens when you start to see a video go viral or semi-viral is that you start to chase the success of that video rather than stick with the grounding of the foundation that you initially built with that channel. And while that necessarily isn't a bad thing, the problem is that you're not necessarily necessarily making the content you like to make, you're making the content that you know people might like. I have seen tons of channels try to capitalize and replicate their success on a certain type of video or series, and the problem is it actually hurts their channel in the long term, because what happens is that the rest of their content kind of falls by the wayside because they're not giving it as much love or as much passion or attention as they should, and so their audience is able to sniff that out, and it really doesn't bode well for them. It tends to distort your view of reality, and what happens is it really takes away from your ability to create content, because then you start to get depressed when you're uploading your other content and it's not seeing the same level of success, even though YouTube is all about the long game and it's about pumping out as much content as you possibly can. What's great about the time that we live in is that people can promote themselves for free on a myriad of different platforms, but really just don't put in the time or effort to do so and hope that the people come to them rather than reaching out to people to start the conversation. Take this as an example. By the time this video is finished, you could go ahead and look up multiple videos in something that you might be interested in, like a particular hobby or interest, and if you go onto some of those videos and start making conversation with some of the people in the comments section, not necessarily directly promoting the fact that you have your own videos, but if your comments are actually providing value, maybe you're giving feedback to someone, or maybe you're trying to help them with whatever it is that they're asking about, they might actually look at that feedback that you provided them, wonder who you are, click on your YouTube comment, and then all of a sudden they're going to be on your channel. They might go down the rabbit hole of watching your content, and congratulations, you might have just found yourself a new subscriber. And then if you do that over and over and over and over again, that's how you can slowly start to build a following. And I think people have a hard time understanding that that's kind of how social media works in a nutshell, because people feel that if they get this large shout out or this big piece of publicity from a larger source, then that's going to be their big break. But that actually couldn't be further from the truth. There's been plenty of people who have been shouted out or exposed by, large entities or large personalities, and they don't really see much of a bump in their growth. That doesn't mean people don't, but I would say more often than not, it's really not going to affect your bottom line. You could go into Facebook groups, depending on what your hobby or interest is, and you could start conversations with people. People are going to start being exposed to you. They're going to wonder who you are, depending on if you're an actual person or if you're an entity. They're going to click on you. That might direct to your YouTube channel in some way, and then people are going to say, wow, this is really cool. I'm actually going to subscribe to this. And then when you extrapolate that across YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, I could go on and on and on. There are so many avenues and so many different paths to success, depending on the amount of commitment that you're willing to put in, that you're going to be able to grow your following at a ridiculous pace, but it is going to be work. So at the end of the day, just keep pushing, keep posting content, keep interacting with your fans, both on your channels and not on your channels, because that's how you can get the biggest source of growth, and I can guarantee you that you will start to see growth. I'd like to understand your process for planning out your content. How far in advance do you plan, and to what detail? So I've got a few methods. The first thing that I do is I actually print out a physical calendar so I can write down with a pen what is going on throughout that month, in case there's any big events. If there's anything noteworthy that I need to make sure that I need to plan content around, that's the biggest. Also, if I have any series that I'm doing on a weekly basis, I also just write those down on the calendar as well, because then that way I know that, on Monday or Friday or whatever day that I'm hosting the series, those days are pretty much all going to be taken up for that, but I also know that I need to have the content ready to be distributed on those days. And then I usually go week by week and start filling in the gaps on the calendar for what else I want to do. Maybe I want to do some sort of mini series that's going to lead into some larger piece of content that's going to go up the following week, something like that. I like to leave myself usually like one day a week for anything topical that might come up out of nowhere that I wasn't necessarily prepared for, because I can usually upload and produce a video within a single day as long as I have a little bit of notice. But again, it just depends on how your workflow is. Time management is definitely essential though. I think a lot of people just think that people just come up with video ideas, make them, and that's really all there is to it. No, like I said, I do about a month of planning in advance, and that usually helps me structure my weeks well enough so that I know that I always have something to do and that I'm not falling behind on other projects. I have a set upload schedule to commit to soon of once a week and another once a month. Is that good, or is that too distant for a new creator? There really isn't a wrong answer here. There's successful channels that post every day, and then there's successful channels that post every month. It really just depends on the type of content that you're going for, and then that's where the scale of quantity versus quality tends to come in, because if you're going to upload once a month, typically it better be a more high quality video, because that's usually what's going to attract a lot of people, but then that's also going to be your only video for the month, and so you better make sure that you're going to pull in as many people as possible. Otherwise, otherwise your once a month video schedule probably isn't going to work out. I personally subscribe to the philosophy that you should be pumping out as much content as possible. The reason for that is because the more videos you make, the more chances that people are going to be exposed to your content, and with people uploading hundreds if not thousands of hours of content to YouTube every single minute, you have to find your ways to make yourself stand out amongst the crowd. And so the more videos you have out there, there's a higher likelihood that people are going to stumble upon your videos and they're going to share that time with you, and that's really how you're going to start to build following. Now, that's just my personal way of going about it. Obviously, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the only way to go about it, but that's how I've built my path to success. Again, there's multiple answers to this question here. It's really what works best for you, but to a degree, there is a numbers game involved here, and so there's going to be a difference to someone that uploads 30 videos versus 3,000. I just started my YouTube channel, but as I learn the ins and outs of creating content, I'm worried I won't be able to produce videos as fast as other creators. My question is, what is an acceptable video upload rate when you're just starting? This kind of ties in with the last question. I'm just a huge advocate of pumping out as much content as you can without burning yourself out. You know, finding that nice delicate balance between quantity and quality is always key. The thing is, and I see this happen a lot with smaller content creators, is that they get so fixated on setting a set schedule of, you know, twice a week, 3 times a week, whatever it may be. Just start making the content. Stop getting fixated on the little things. It's not going to be perfect. It's okay. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to have videos that flop. I still have that all the time, and many large creators do as well. It doesn't matter about the ways that you fail. It's how you pick yourself up afterwards and keep persevering through, because eventually you're going to make a breakthrough. You're going to find something that works. People are going to really love one of the videos that you create, but if you spend all your time fixating and trying to make every little thing perfect, that you're just pretty much paralyzing yourself and not actually creating the content, that is the #1 biggest mistake that you can make. So stop worrying about it. Just start producing. Anyone watching this video right now and who wants to get into YouTube, by the end of this week, by the time that you're watching this, I want you to make one video. Just make a video. Any video, it doesn't matter. Just by starting and making that one video, you can learn a lot. You can learn a lot about video production. You can learn a lot about editing. You can learn a lot about your own personal style and the type of channel that you really want to be. It's all about executing and actually creating the content, not being theoretical and thinking about every single possible conceivable angle of if something will work and if something won't. You're really not going to know until you do it. And so if you are going to take this challenge, I want you to post the link to that video down below in the comments to actually prove that you did it. And that could be the first step into a really great future. So guys, that's going to wrap it up for the very first episode of Ask Cimo Media. Again, be sure to go down in the description and follow me on all social media networks to keep an eye out for any future posts regarding the next episode of Ask Cimo Media, and who knows, your question might get featured. This video series is all about bringing value to you guys to help you build your platforms regardless of your channel size. So be sure to subscribe for more future YouTube content. We've got tons of content to go around. Be sure to check out all the other videos on the channel if you're interested. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.